He had everything to be the most beloved emperor of Rome: victory in battles, the loyalty of the legions, and the love of the people. But instead of a throne, his fate was tragedy. Who was Germanicus, the general who could have changed the course of the Roman Empire, but never rose to power? Germanicus was not just another general. He was a war hero, a direct descendant of Augustus, and the perfect symbol of Roman greatness. The legions adored him so much that, in a mutiny, they even offered him the title of emperor. But he refused. Why? What would drive such a powerful man to turn away from something that others would kill to attain? Imagine the responsibility of carrying the future of Rome on your shoulders. Germanicus embodied the glory, hope, and nobility of the republic that had become the empire. Yet his destiny was marked by silent betrayals, palace intrigues, and a premature death that still raises suspicions today. How did someone so brilliant become a victim of the very system he helped protect? Germanicus died far from Rome, surrounded by shadows of conspiracy. Was his death an accident or a meticulously planned assassination? Who benefited from the disappearance of this charismatic leader? And most importantly, what would have happened to Rome if Germanicus had accepted the throne? In today's video, you'll learn about the fascinating and tragic journey of Germanicus. We'll explore his victorious military campaigns, the dangers he faced within the empire itself, and the reasons he never became emperor. We'll uncover the mysteries behind his death and the impact his absence left on the history of Rome. If you want to discover how extraordinary men shaped, or could have shaped, the fate of Rome, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Together, let's relive the dramas, glories, and tragedies that built one of the greatest empires in history. Germanicus was no ordinary general in Roman history. He didn't just conquer territories, he conquered the hearts of his legions and the Roman people. Picture the scene: a military camp in the wilderness of Germania, boiling with anger and frustration. Soldiers, desperate for a leader they could trust, rallied around Germanicus as their hero. The name of Emperor Tiberius, ruling from distant Rome, meant little to them. Amid the chaos, the legions went as far as to offer Germanicus the imperial crown. It was an unprecedented moment, an act of open defiance that could have rewritten the course of the Roman Empire. But Germanicus refused. In a world where power was usually seized by ambition and blood, his decision to turn his back on the crown was shocking. He chose loyalty to the established order and his allegiance to Tiberius over the dangerous temptation of power. This was no mere act of self-control. It was a rare statement of character and discipline. For the soldiers, his rejection was bittersweet. Their loyalty to Germanicus only deepened. Yet the man they trusted most refused to take what they believed was rightfully his. What makes this moment even more fascinating is its broader significance. Germanicus's refusal to claim power may have protected him, at least temporarily, from being seen as a rival to Tiberius. But it also planted the seeds of tension between them. To Tiberius, Germanicus's popularity and moral authority only grew, and in a political system built on suspicion and control, that kind of admiration was dangerous. What Germanicus gained in honor, he may have lost in safety. Why, then, would a man so admired by his soldiers and so capable of leading Rome reject the crown? Did he fear civil war? Or was his loyalty to the empire stronger than his own ambition? The answer lies not just in Germanicus's character, but in the battles that awaited him. A series of military campaigns that would solidify his legacy and deepen the suspicions surrounding him. Yet even on the battlefield, Germanicus's victories carried both glory and danger. What made his campaigns against the Germanic tribes so extraordinary, and how did they ultimately shape his fate? Germanicus's military campaigns in Germania were nothing short of legendary. After the devastating Roman defeat at the Battle of Teutoburg Forest years earlier, where 3 legions were annihilated, Rome's honor was shattered, and its famed eagle standards were lost. It was Germanicus who led the charge to avenge this humiliation. Marching deep into hostile lands, he struck hard at the Germanic tribes, recovering the lost standards and restoring pride to the empire. His victories were swift decisive, and filled with symbolic power. To the Roman people, he was a hero. To the legions, he was a godlike figure. But glory on the battlefield came with a price. Germanicus's rising fame cast a long shadow over his relationship with Emperor Tiberius. The more Germanicus succeeded, the more his victories seemed to highlight Tiberius's own shortcomings. While Germanicus was celebrated as a leader in the field, brave, charismatic, and adored, Tiberius was seen as cold, distant, and increasingly paranoid. Germanicus's accomplishments weren't just victories for Rome. They were political statements that unintentionally threatened the emperor's authority. This tension only grew with Germanicus's popularity. His soldiers worshipped him, his military successes brought the empire prestige, and his lineage as the adopted grandson of Augustus made him a natural heir to power. These factors combined to make him not just a beloved general, but also a figure of potential danger. In a political climate where emperors were obsessed with controlling rivals, Germanicus became a target of whispers and suspicions. How long would Tiberius tolerate the rise of a man whose shadow loomed so large? Even Germanicus himself seemed to sense the weight of these contradictions. He was loyal to Rome, yet his success risked alienating the very man he pledged to serve. The victories that cemented his legacy also made him vulnerable. Every triumph brought another reason for Tiberius to view him with distrust. It was as if Germanicus's greatest achievements contained the seeds of his downfall. The culmination of this suspicion would not come on the battlefield, but in a distant land far from Rome, where alliances were fragile and enemies moved in shadows. What awaited Germanicus in the east, and how did his final journey bring him face to face with betrayal? After his triumphant campaigns in Germania, Germanicus's next mission took him to the eastern provinces of the Roman Empire, a region where politics were even deadlier than war. Sent by Tiberius to stabilize the east, Germanicus found himself stepping into a web of intrigue. Tensions immediately flared between him and Gnaeus Calpurnius Piso, the governor of Syria. Piso, a man with close ties to Tiberius, openly defied Germanicus's authority, undermining him at every turn. From altering orders to sabotaging his decisions, Piso seemed determined to provoke the general. But was this personal animosity, or was Piso acting on instructions from higher up? Germanicus's time in the east was marked by a mix of success and growing unease. He displayed his typical brilliance, strengthening Roman influence and winning local support, but the constant friction with Piso began to overshadow his accomplishments. Suspicious incidents began to accumulate. Minor disruptions, strange illnesses among his men, and whispers of poison. Germanicus, always aware of the dangers surrounding powerful men, began to sense that his life was at risk. The breaking point came in Antioch. Germanicus fell mysteriously ill, and his health rapidly deteriorated. Accounts from those close to him suggest he believed he had been poisoned. As he lay dying, Germanicus accused Piso and his allies of treachery, sparking outrage among his supporters. His death, far from the glory of the battlefield, was surrounded by confusion and grief. How could a man of such strength and vitality succumb so quickly? The aftermath of Germanicus's death sent shockwaves through Rome. His passing was not just a personal tragedy, it was a political earthquake. To the public, Germanicus had been a symbol of hope and integrity, a stark contrast to the corruption they increasingly associated with Tiberius's reign. The accusations against Piso fueled public anger, leading many to question whether Tiberius himself had a hand in the conspiracy. If Germanicus had been murdered, who truly orchestrated it, and why? But the deeper question remained. What would Rome lose with Germanicus gone? His death opened a void that no one seemed able to fill, and the empire began to feel the weight of his absence. Yet beyond the mourning and accusations, one thought loomed large. What if Germanicus had survived? The death of Germanicus marked a turning point for Rome, not just because of the man he was, but because of what he could have become. Germanicus represented a different future, one where the empire might have been led by a man who combined military brilliance with moral integrity. He was more than a general. He was a leader who inspired loyalty through respect, not fear. His absence left Rome at the mercy of men who lacked his vision, and the empire's steady descent into paranoia and instability began to take hold. With Germanicus gone, Tiberius's reign grew darker. The shadow of his suspected involvement in Germanicus's death never truly lifted, and it further alienated him from the Roman people. Piso, the man accused of poisoning Germanicus, was put on trial, but his suicide before a verdict only deepened the mystery. The lack of closure left lingering questions. Was Piso truly the mastermind, or merely a pawn in a larger game? Did Tiberius eliminate a rival he feared would one day replace him? The unanswered questions added a haunting layer to Germanicus's legacy. What's more striking is the impact his death had on the generations that followed. Germanicus's children, including the infamous Caligula and the steadfast Agrippina the Younger, carried his name and his influence into the future. Caligula's reign would come to symbolize chaos, while Agrippina's ambition would shape the destiny of Nero. Germanicus's untimely death did not just mark the end of a promising leader. It altered the course of Roman history, steering the empire toward greater uncertainty and turmoil. But perhaps the most compelling thought is what might have been. Had Germanicus lived and claimed the throne, could he have restored balance to the empire? His leadership in Germania showed his strength as both a strategist and a unifier. His loyalty to Rome demonstrated his dedication to something greater than himself. Would his reign have been enough to stabilize an empire constantly teetering on the edge of corruption and violence? Germanicus's story leaves us with a haunting question. Was his fate inevitable, or could Rome have been saved by its lost hero? And more importantly, how many other leaders throughout history have been silenced before they could change the world? If you've been captivated by the story of Germanicus, the general who could have been emperor, you'll want to dive into his most pivotal moment, the mutiny that almost shook Rome to its core. In this next video, we explore how Germanicus faced the ultimate test of loyalty when his soldiers offered him the imperial crown. What did he choose, and how did his decision shape the future of Rome? Click the link to discover how Germanicus's leadership during this crisis could have changed the empire forever.